We are here for a crash course on engineering in Star Citizen. Is it going to ruin everything? And where the heck is it? We're going to start this off with a look at this 2015. Is this right? Kind of. There's a little bit of it. Actually, I think there's another document that is pretty straightforward engineering. Engineering ship component systems. So this is like, they knew what they wanted to do 12 years ago. So when you think about the idea that they're adding stuff into the game that may or may not ruin the game, excuse me, puberty, may or may not ruin the game, it's kind of their game to ruin. Because if they don't do it, then they're sort of lying about the initial game that they wanted to make. So we talked about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about flight blades and components. This is really talking about how components are the important part of your ship. These are at the heart of your ship's customization. When you build a ship, we want it to feel like the ship is yours. It's not just a carbon copy of every other Aurora or Freelancer. You have a sense of pride when you pilot your craft, knowing that while there may be many like it this is the one that you own, unique in the universe. Components, subcomponents, weapons, thrusters, power plants, flight blades, computers, this is all the stuff that makes your ship. It makes it matter. And engineering is our ability to interact with it. But I want to be clear, engineering is not the only part of that. The resource network is the overarching system. Engineering is just that in our ships. And probably what they'll call all of the gameplay surrounding it now that I think of it. But we also are engineering or doing resource management on ground outposts. When you get to a ground place and you've got to get a certain objective inside of the building, it's not just a simple button to press to open the door for that building. It will be an actual dynamic system of resources flowing throughout the buildings there, and you will have to figure out how to route power from one place to that door to open it. Not saying that's how it'll always be, but that's what building out a system around this does, as opposed to just saying, yeah, that's on, turn the light on. And this same thing goes for things like lights and antennas, for communications arrays, for the ability for NPCs to call in reinforcements, for the ability for the mining facility to keep running. Maybe you need to hack into a refinery system for the headhunters to make sure that they can't keep supplying their people with the goods. Like, there are a lot of ways they could use this to complicate a story we already are looking at. This is just adding depth to it. It's also making the ship kind of your home. We should also note that it is our intention to make all of this optional. The great challenge of game design is building something that is easy to pick up but difficult to master. You never need to drill down this deep to enjoy Star Citizen. This is so key. So many people think that if you're flying your Pisces around from one station to another, you're going to have to get up out of your Pisces every 500,000 kilometers and change a fuse or something. And it's definitely not going to be like that. Like, the game still has to be interesting and fun. If you're itching to get out there and fight or explore or trade, grab a factory model, add the few parts that you absolutely need, and head for the stars. Then you can just do the same thing we've always been doing, get repaired at a space station whenever you go back to the space station. If you'd rather have control over every aspect of your ship's function and tweak every element of its performance until it's just right for you, then we're giving you that option here. As with everything else in Star Citizen, choice is the watchword. You play how you want, and we just supply the tools. We believe that many of our users will be interested in this system since so many of you build and tweak your own PCs, and doing the same for your starships feels like a natural next step. All this is great, but it is just words from 12 years ago. So we're going to look at actually how they've been developing this over time to match what they're saying here. But a little bit deeper into it, you can see all of the stuff that's tied into these systems, from the hull to the power plant to your thrusters to your weapons. You can see that they have taken into account statistics for all this stuff. We have touched on this so much. There's a lot of newer documents that show this sort of stuff. Real quick though, just to go over heat, because that is pretty important. Power plants are the beating heart of the ship. Without the power, the ship is dead in space. Power is at a premium, and pilots will find that they never seem to have enough of it to go around. Now, this is a big part of what makes space games. You can host a game in space, but if there's no worry about food, oxygen, air, power, heat, or any of the other things that space is, kind of known for, then is it really a space game? And it's all about, I guess, how deep they go into it, but you can see here that they want it to be an important thing we think about. Consuming power also will be generating heat that needs to be dispersed from the ship, much like a modern high-performance PC. If the ship can't cool itself, it begins to damage its components. Wise pilots will install more cooling than the minimum provided by the hull to handle unforeseen heat spikes like those that might occur in battle or because of damaged components. In a remarkable show of consistency on this, we can in fact see that one of the most recent updates to engineering in the recent monthly report, I want to make sure I got this right, got this kind of wrong. They're talking about it a little bit here. The team also progressed towards implementing heat gameplay for ship thrusters. This involved adding filters to the engineering UI to allow players to only see items of a particular category. So you can see they're playing with heat on thrusters, and we'll touch on that in a second. If you go a little bit earlier, though, to February, remember, these are monthly reports 12 years after the document we're looking at right now. You go here, and I believe they're talking here about, was it April? No, it wasn't April. Coolant. Here we go. Coolant. Various player-facing issues causing the resource network to not behave as players expected were fixed, while the coolant effectiveness calculation of items was updated. And this is... okay, I'm not finding the right freaking report here. There was a report where they talked a lot about what they were doing with coolers and heat. Maybe I'm making that up in my head. So it wasn't on March. I don't think it was April either. Ship death. Yeah, we talked about ship death for April. Not heat, though. I don't know. I must have lost it. Could have sworn it was March or February, but I don't see it there. But we could see, just freaking 12 years later, and they are actively getting these kinds of things of cool. Oh, here it were. I just didn't see it. Coolant. Changes were made to vehicle coolant. Now effectiveness is based on the item's physical properties, with the maximum amount of coolant counteracting heating caused by an equal amount of power. Coolant consumption uses deltas with dynamic override. The maximum coolant request is based on the maximum power consumption multiplied by a resource network global parameter. Basically, we're making it so that heat needs coolant, and if you don't have one, then the other one won't work. And yeah, as you can see, this is the kind of stuff they were talking about back then. Signature is also being mentioned. This is something we know about. Mass is something they just talked about last week, about calculating the mass you're carrying around and having that affect your ship. And CPU is our computer. That's where flight blades come in. That's where AI blades come in. And that's why when we say it's weird that flight blades are on the store, we're also talking about components because it's right here in the same conversation. Now, engineering is going to be a money sink in some instances. Cost and availability is a thing. Not all parts are available everywhere, and even the locations that normally sell certain parts might be out of stock. You also might not be able to get certain parts unless you have a certain type of reputation. Of course, even if not every part in the game has a cost in credits that must be paid or purchased and not is available everywhere, the question comes back up. If you sell parts and components on the store, what does that mean for this? Players will need to travel far and wide to locate all the parts they wish to install. I don't know about that. Performance tuning. This is obviously CPU stuff. What you're doing is overclocking your weapons and modules, just like dedicated PCU enthusiasts do their CPUs. Basically, you would be getting boosts. These tolerances aren't known. Sometimes a laser might get a 10% boost or a 20% boost, and other times you might cause your overclocked gun to just generate excessive heat. We anticipate some players will make a living overclocking upgrades and selling them to others at a premium. It's our equivalent to an MMO crafting system without the artificial leveling mechanic taking you out of the game. Yes, I guess we can certainly sell flight blades to other people at a premium. Item quality. This is the wear and tear that we have seen talked about. This will be applied to both guns, weapons, items. The idea of wear and tear is actually one of requiring you to go back to crafters. Sorry, it is. This is just to show that it's engineering is a system. It's a system of different features that combine that'll be used in weapons as well as in other things.
In this video, you got I hope you guys know what's happening. So he goes, and then it goes click. That's the bullet getting lodged in the chamber, right? So we've got to fix it. So it's telling us to fix it. We're hitting the button, Our enemy's firing on us. So you've got some options. You don't have to fix it. You could holster your gun. You could pull out a new gun. You could use that new looting interface ANS showed to grab a better gun. Okay.
So that's not engineering, but it's very closely related. Wear and tear will be a thing that you have to worry about. But I don't think it'll be that big a deal unless you're just like absolutely abusing your ship all the time. Now, back in the day, this was all referred to as the pipes system. When they first built it, they called it pipes back in like 3.0. It just really has turned into resource management, resource network. So going beyond that, this was the very first development-focused introduction of this system we ever saw. Here's what it looked like.
The purpose of prototyping, especially for anything gameplay related, is
just to give you a sense of how long we've been waiting for this. This video is from 2020. So not just words and rumors on the page like we were just looking at. This is actual development starting 5 years ago.
To prove that it's fun. If you don't have it fun with a cube and a sphere, you can put all the pretty paint on top of it. It's never going to be fun. So with the resource management, we have this idea that there is one way the resources are managed throughout the entire game. There's one way to consume them, one way to produce them, and all the items everywhere, they use the same system. So we started by creating this small example of a ship where we have a power plant, we have a fuel tank, a battery, we have lights inside the ship, we have turrets, we have weapons. We try to build a priority system, so you never want your lights to have the same priority as, for example, your power plant or your weapons. Basically, as soon as we start the simulation, the power plant goes, I'm online now, but I have no fuel. So all of this energy right now, the lights start draining the battery. If we put some fuel in the fuel tank, as soon as we put it in, the power plant starts going online, the battery starts replenishing because there's not that many consumers online. If I go, okay, let's say I set my weapons, my laser weapons to fire, as soon as I do that, there will be more drain on the energy. We can actually see we have a simulation of resources. We know we're producing this much power and we're requesting this much. We're running everything through exactly the same system. Now, same thing, let's say someone takes out our power plant because it got shut down or got sabotaged. Automatically now we're on battery power. It might go, okay, we don't need weapons now, we're going to turn them off. Lights, I only need the one in the front, so I'm conserving a bit of battery power until I can repair my power plant. Once I repair my power plant, this goes online and I can start turning stuff on again. And this was our first thing we did, where we built the ship, and we built this tool in a way that allows us to build different ship configurations. So as you can see, you can kind of understand the basic shape of a hammerhead. As soon as I turn on the simulation, we can see we have both power plants are starting to produce power. The fuel tank starts to get drained. The battery is on full capacity. We have these relays. Relays are a new concept that we're introducing in the ship in order for all those resources to travel from the fuel tank to the power plant, from the power plant to the battery, from the battery to the lights. Everything travels through these relays. Now, each relay you have on your ship is going to consume power. So the less you have, the more efficient you're going to be. The more you have you're going to be more redundant. For example, in this case, let's say someone sabotages this and they destroy this part. You can see already this part of the ship lost resources. If we lose this one, this power plant is off. Let's say now I need to start shooting. So I'm manning my turrets and they're shooting. I'm starting my hammerhead doesn't have these weapons exactly here. We're just trying to simulate a ship at this point. You will start notice my lights started going off because in the priority my lights are very low priority. If you look at the battery is starting to drain. Let's say at this point it reaches 0. It ran out. Now this turret is off. It doesn't have power. This one
I think it's worth
is not running
noticing
at
just how much redundancy is built in. This is a big ship, so that's a thing. But like, it's not like you lose a relay and then everything is lost.
what we requested because there's only one power plant running right now. Now, if I have a mechanic on board, he'll go, okay, this relay is broken, get power back to that power plant. As soon as we got power back to the power plant, we're starting to get our resources back, lights start going back online, we're back in business at this point. But let's say we have, I don't know, a smarter saboteur that goes, well, I kind of see how this ship is configured, I'm actually going to cut it in half. And this is usually like a worst case scenario. The system is smart enough to understand the idea that once the ship is cut in half, this front part of the ship has its own resource network, and this part of the ship is its own resource network. So
That's pretty cool.
it runs them independently.
Like you could just, I wonder, it'd be cool if you could have batteries that didn't have to go into a battery slot. You just have a bunch of batteries all around your ship. Nobody will ever take my power away.
So everything in the back gets powered by these two power plants, but anything in front, it's completely dead because our battery is dead. As an engineer, your main goal is going to be to keep your ship as operational and as efficient as possible. So let's say now I'm transporting goods. I'm just moving from...
So that's a basic breakdown of how the system itself is going to work, and a look at the debugging configuration. You could hear, he was already talking about relays and fuses and stuff. It was recognizable. Now we're going to jump forward about 2 years to see what else they were saying about it. Here's just another look kind of at what they were planning on doing for engineering. This would be 2022, so 2 years later. They had a little bit more understanding of the design they were going for.
There are various things that have broken down. You will have tactical officers moving shields from one side of the ship to another in order to counter whatever incoming damage you have. Obviously, the pilot is going to be doing his job trying to move the ship out of harm's way. The gunners are going to be taking out enemy incoming fighters or other ships. This is how we envision this entire ecosystem just coming together and providing what we hope is true multi-crew gameplay. And for all of you out there that are waiting for the Idrises and Javelins and want to use these ships, this is the system that is going to make using those ships possible. So all that said, this is a
I think the store made using those ships possible.
really important system for Star Citizen, but let's dig into the details and see what exactly this is.
So this is actually a CitizenCon panel. This is what it's going to look like this year. And they just kind of do these longer or these shorter panels about specific things.
Resource management can be broken down into several key elements. Power, energy, resources, life support, item maintenance, relay handling, access control, and gravity.
We know most of this. Life support's pretty straightforward. Relay handling is in-game. Power, energy, resources is also in-game, but we only have it on the MFD. Access control is really important, and we don't know anything about that so far. That's basically so you can lock certain ship systems in so only certain people can use them. And then gravity is pretty self-explanatory. So this was meant to just kind of show where they are in terms of debugging and showing how this system works with the systems they have right now.
Each item actually gets the resources they need. Creating your own resource path is basically defining the routes, or the most efficient routes that the energy or the resources have to take throughout your ship.
We can also demonstrate many aspects of the life support system, including making new players suffocate, fire expulsion.
The most obvious reason besides killing people.
change the temperature in each room.
All right. It's getting a little long. You guys get the idea, though. These are the ability to basically just change how your ship works. And
Relay gameplay, changing fuses on the relays, resource balancing, defining control groups that will be accessible through the MFDs, allowing people to create presets for your resource network for each ship, an engineering UI with at least a list or schematic view of your ships, external engineering screen for ships, allowing engineers to define the tuning parameters that can be accessed by the pilot with the press of a button.
all right. And we've seen all that too. That's coming in. Sorry, I don't want to spend too much more time on this. Now, the actual act of engineering and how it affects us is starting to be seen in these recent ISCs. This isn't everything involved in it, but it is showing us the gameplay that's coming along. And at the end of the day, this is all about just maintenance. This is just maintenance. This is the same thing we've always been doing. We just have to go to space stations for it. Now we can do it through the ship, but rather than just through the ship is no longer your one life source. The damage gets translated into the components, giving you an alternative source to soak up some damage or to soak up some resources so that you have time to act on whatever's going on, rather than just taking damage to your ship and exploding. Or even outside of fighting, this is just about defining the tools that you need to make your ship as useful as possible, whether that's through mining, cargo hauling, tractor beaming, salvaging, whatever it is. This is just about customizing your ship to fit your goals and then maintaining it so it does its best.
That will be added to the mix, and that is the relay with its fuses. Then there's the life support generator. The biggest thing we are aiming for is switching from your health pool of the bespoke ship to just moving that completely over to the physicalized component. So damaging the component is damaging your ship. I think this is the part where the biggest change for the players happen, because there the gameplay of repair comes in, and then you can revitalize your ship. So you can actually use your formerly dead in the water ship after exchanging or repairing the components.
He's not wrong. I think that's the biggest part. Being able to repair a ship from being basically ruined is... Oh, imagine if that's how they have us start the game out, just like with No Man's Sky.
Well, we mentioned one of the new components, which is the life support generator. So let's talk about life support.
The life support does all the tasks necessary to maintain the life support inside the ship.
So it's the temperature, it's the atmosphere composition, it's the pressure inside the room. Your main responsibility is making sure that there's always enough life support resource produced to maintain a healthy atmosphere in the ship. So making sure that all the CO2 that you breathe out is actually converted into O2 again. Or if you vented a room, that the room is filled again. If your room is getting too hot, it's cooled down again. So it's all about managing this resource inside the rooms. And as already mentioned in the previous episodes, it's life support management is also a good way to counter fire. Another aspect the players have to counter or react to is misfires on components.
I think this is what has people scared.
It's already in the game in some form. Thruster charges, seal generator failure, stuff like that. We're just expanding it a bit. And pretty much the idea is that, items that are damaged, that are too hot, or that, for example, are very old and degraded, will start misfiring.
I think that all is a pretty good package of words right there. They're already in the game. We're just expanding them a bit, and it's only about components that have been damaged or are very old. Like, they're trying to let people know that they don't want to just throw a wrench into everything that happens right now.
In some cases, that will be that it will take some extra damage. In other cases, it will be that they will stop working for a while. Other times, they will work indefinitely until an engineer comes by and manages to do some repairs. And some of the worst cases would be starting a fire, or in the case of, for example, power plants, engaging in a critical reactor failure and taking the ship with them.
There was a chance that if the power plant reaches 0 health, it will run into a critical failure, and that critical failure then will cause the entire ship to explode. It will give the player...
Very used to that. So that's how you get back to the normal death we're used to. But that's all I really wanted to talk about. Again, I just wanted this to be a quick crash course on engineering and what it's meant to offer. You can see a little bit of the interface here. So like the interface to seeing the doors, the life support, what's powering what, where relays are, and what's damaged. They've done some work on that, and you can find this in game. And then obviously the power balancing screen we're all very aware of and used to. So you can see where your power is actually going from batteries and stuff. This has just been a crash course on how engineering is going to fit into Star Citizen. And honestly, they show it so much in the context of combat, but I think everybody should remember this isn't just a combat thing. This is going to allow your ship to act how you want it in combat or not in it. And that's more important than anything else in this game, I think. Ships are still just basic ships. This turns them into something real, something new, a combination of things. And thank you everybody for listening. I hope you got some information from this.